he camped. Uh-huh. It goes from plural to the singular. They, says they journeyed and he camped. Because at that point in time, the children of Israel achieved something, a recognition of what is truly precious in the eyes of God that would make them proper vessels to receive his Torah. What is that? Humility. How did they see this? So they saw it because they were brought to Mount Sinai. Of all the mountains, this was the smallest. God's not interested in large, magnificent, and showy. Small, but of value. Smallest. In addition, who did God choose to deliver the Torah to us? Moshe. Moshe is known as the most humble man on the face of the earth who ever lived. Not only that, when God spoke to Moshe at the burning bush, and he said to him, I want you to go to Paro and this, and Moshe was saying, what should I say? This, that. Moshe finally said, I'm not worthy to go to Paro. How could you send me? Why? What was wrong with Moshe? He had a terrible speech impediment. He stuttered terribly. He says, that's who you're going to send to appear before the Pharaoh? It would be a disgrace. Send an orator, somebody who has a glib of tongue. You're going to send me? Moshe was physically blemished. Yes, it's true that God did heal him and enable him to say what had to be said, but Moshe had a speech impediment. And yet we see that's the individual that God wants. God is not looking for somebody who is tall and handsome, magnificent, what do I call it? Panache, is that the word? Panache and the whole business, everything. That's not. Are you laughing, Moshe? That's not what God is looking for. God is looking for he who is humble. In addition, God chooses to give us the Torah where? In a desert, not in a magnificent city, which can demonstrate for one and all the achievement of human beings who work together and we build highways and plumbing and structures and magnificent cities and whatever you can imagine. No, in a desert, an area which is, first of all, open to one and all. Second of all, it is the utmost simplicity. This is where God chooses to give us the Torah. And in the month of Sivan, which we learned has the astrological sign of Gemini, twins, meaning we should look at each other and say, I don't see a different person. I see someone who is exactly like me. And just like my right hand is not going to be envious of my left, I can't be envious of you. I should be happy for you. I should be thrilled. We saw that all of this was to enable the children of Israel to divest themselves from the ego that God created within man, that we should achieve and we should want to improve and we should want to accumulate. We recognize there's a place for that, but that's not the ultimate purpose and goal of our existence. On the contrary, to put that aside and realize that we are all one entity, one unit. That's what we achieved. Now we're ready for the Torah. And as Moshe was concerned, as we said 2 weeks ago, I can take the Jews out of Egypt, but how do I take Egypt out of the Jews with all the corruption of their mind, their values, idolatry? And God said, you know how? It's possible to have a thorough transformation of a human being. And that is when they accept willingly my Torah. But they have to be ready. And now we're ready. Now we are ready. So what happens? God didn't just give us the Torah right away, but something happened prior to that. And to that we look in Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 2, page 1113. Yeah, I finally figured out instead of looking like a fool. This is the very last parsha of the 5 books of Moses. And Moshe, before his death, is giving us a blessing. And in verse 2, what does he say? Go ahead.
He said, Hashem came from Sinai, having shown forth to them from Seir, having appeared from Mount Paran, and then approached with some of the holy myriads. From his right hand, he presented the fiery Torah to them.
Okay. Does anybody understand what this verse is talking about? No. What is this all about? We know God came from Sinai. God came from Sinai? We went to Sinai. What does it mean, God came from Sinai? Keep that in mind. God didn't come from Sinai. We went to Sinai, and God's presence was there. In addition, what does it mean? He shone forth from Seir, and he appeared from Mount Paran. What is this all about? So, who is Seir? Who is Seir? Esau. Esau, when he took leave of Yaakov, he went to dwell at Mount Seir. And Esau is also known as Edom. Edom. Do you remember why he was called Edom? Edom means what? Red. Why was he called Edom? And why would the Torah even point that out? What are we giving nicknames? So if you remember, it says that he came back. Let's see if I find this. I should have written down. He came back, right, when he sold his birthright. He came back. He was out in the field. He was exhausted. Page 127. Let's go to 127. I should have written that down. 127. We have it 127, verse 29. Let's see that this is 29.
Jacob simmered a stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was exhausted. Esau said to Jacob, pour into me now some of that very red stuff, for I am exhausted. He therefore called his name Edom.
Okay. The verse points out he was exhausted. I can't even pick it up. I'll open my mouth like a camel, and you pour it in. Okay, this is Esau. And he didn't just say, give me some of that, which you're cooking, you're making. Give me some of that red stuff. Isn't that strange? The Torah should point that out. And not only that, it's worthy of mentioning, that's why he's called Esau. Isn't that crazy? And even though it's in parenthesis, it's part of the Hebrew verse. That's why he's called Edom. That's part of the verse. He's called Edom. And it means red. We call him Red. What's his nickname? Red? What does that mean? That seems so strange. So we'll see in a moment. Let's go back to 11:13. So we know that it says that God shone forth from Seir, which refers to Esau. And also it says he approached them, or he appeared to them from Mount Paran. Who's Mount Paran? That refers to Yishmael. Because Yishmael, who is Yishmael? The son of Abraham, and his mother was Hagar. So he went, when he was sent away, he went to Paran. So this means that God appeared from Mount Paran. He appeared from Esau, he appeared from Yishmael. What does this mean? So I'm going to share with you something tonight that some of you are somewhat familiar, but none of you are going to be familiar with what I'm telling you tonight. It's in the Zohar. And that is, we know that it says, this we're familiar with. Before God offered the Torah to the Jewish people, first he offered it to Esau, to Yishmael, and to Moab. Who's Moab? Who are the Moabites?
From what?
From Lot, correct. Lot's grandchildren, and we'll see how they came about shortly. He offered them the Torah. He said to each of them, do you wish to receive my Torah? Individually, he spoke to them. Now we'll see in a moment, he didn't speak to all of them. He spoke to the guardian angel. Okay. First, he speaks to the guardian angel of Esav. His name is Sam. Sam, not Sam, Sam. Okay, we'll see who he is in a moment. Okay, and what does Sam say? What is contained in your Torah? God says, thou shalt not kill. He said, nope, can't handle it, can't do it. Okay, God goes to Yishmael. The guardian angel of Yishmael's name is Rahav, not Rachav. Who was Rachav? Yeshua's wife, correct, Rachav, correct. This is Rahav, speaks to Rahav. The guardian angel means this is the angel who is like all the souls and the character of all the members of these people are like connected. This is their root. Do you want to accept the Torah? What's contained? Thou shalt not steal. No, a little bit too hard. Goes to the Moabites and says to the Moabites, you want to receive the Torah? What does it say? He said, thou shalt not commit adultery. They said, no, can't do it. Can't do it. So they refused. So what it means over here is that God came from Sinai. We'll see what it means he came. Shone forth to them. That means there was a shining, there was some light to the Jewish people from Seir. What does that mean? God went to Seir offering the Torah. They said no. So he comes from Seir. And he appears from Mount Paran. He offered them the Torah. They said no. So he comes from there. So what does it mean? God was going around? God offered it to the angels. God didn't have to go to a specific location. The spiritual doesn't have any physical limitations. God spoke to the angel, and the angel said no. First of all, we have one question. Why did God, here it says he spoke, he went to Seir, then Paran, which means he went to Esav, then Yishmael. Why was Esav addressed before Yishmael? Who was older? Yishmael. Yishmael was Esav's uncle, if you think about it. Yishmael was the son of Abraham. Esav was the son of Yitzchak. Yitzchak had a half-brother, Yishmael. Why did he go first to Esav? The answer is because the guardian angel of Esav is none other than the evil inclination, the angel whose job it is to tempt us. He is the Satan. He is also the angel of death. And that is the most powerful, so to say, in regard to influencing human behavior. The greatest challenge to man will come from this angel as opposed to the angel of Yishmael. The angel of Yishmael is one who tempts man with corruption, theft, corruption. The angel of Moab tempts man with lascivious behavior, adultery. These are the verse. So first he goes from the highest to the lowest. These different angels have different jobs. That's why he starts with Asa. Moab, as we said, was a child from Lot's daughter. Okay, and we'll see about that in a moment. So we have to address, what does it mean that God came from Sinai? What is the shining and appearing and coming from Seir, from Paran? If it means that God offered them the Torah, it should have said that God shone forth to Seir, to Paran. God offered to them. And they said no. Why did they say no? How could they say no? God, these are angels. They know who they're talking to. They know this is the creator of all that exists, who created them. And he's saying, you, Sam, on behalf of the people of Esav who are rooted in you, one offering you the Torah. No, can't do it. They refused. How could they refuse? So let's go to page 136. Genesis chapter 27. We want verse 22, page 136. Actually, 137. Page 137. We want chapter 27, verse 22. Do you have it?
So Jacob drew close to Isaac, his father, who felt him and said, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are Esau's hands.
All right. Remember what we're talking about? Yitzchak, Isaac, is old, he lost his vision, and he wants to give a blessing. He wants to give a blessing to his son, Esau, because he believes that Esau is worthy to receive this blessing. His wife, Rivka, through prophecy, recognizes that Esau is not suitable for even this material blessing. And she instructs and commands her son, Yaakov, Jacob, that he should receive this blessing. Jacob says, but my father will recognize that I'm an imposter. Esau was a very hairy man. Yaakov was very smooth. So she dresses him up. She gives him some of Esau's clothes. She takes goat skin and puts it on his arms and his neck. That's what Esau was like. And he comes close, and this is what it means. His father felt him to say, who are you? Are you truly Esau? And he said, the voice, your voice, meaning not how you sound, but how you speak. Your demeanor is that of Jacob, but the hands that I feel are the hands of Esau. What does that mean, the hands of Esau? From here we see that Esau was a man of the hands. Yaakov and his descendants, they are the people of the voice. Prayer, Torah study. Esau is a man of the hands. Well, what's wrong with that? We need hands to build. But let's take a look on page 141. Yitzchak gives the blessing to Yaakov. Yaakov leaves. Esav comes. Esav is hysterical. He wants a blessing. So Yitzchak finally gives him a blessing too. Let's see, what verse 40. We up to here? 40. Go ahead, please.
By your sword you shall live, for your brother you shall serve. Yet it shall be that when you are aggrieved, you may cast off his yoke from upon your neck.
Okay. You know what your blessing is, Esau? You shall live by the sword. You're a man of the hands. Esau is a man of war. What does that mean? That's a blessing. What does it mean, a blessing? It means that Yitzchak was revealing to Esau his nature. This is who you are. This is who you are, Esau. Let's go to page 71. Chapter 16, verse 2. I want verse 2. Is that what I want? Chapter 16? No, I don't even want verse 2. I don't want verse 2. I don't need verse 2. This is where he is being sent away. Verse 2. This is where Sarai is not able to bear a child to Abraham. So she presents her maidservant, Hagar. Look at that. I write down the page, everything, and I still make a mistake. I think I have the wrong one. I don't want this one. Okay, she gives birth to a child. She calls him Yishmael. Yishmael grows. This is the birth of Yishmael. Let's try page 89. Let's see what we can find over there in 89. What verse do I want here? Okay, what I wanted in chapter 16 is that, okay, while you're doing 89, I'll go back to 16. See if I can find out what this is over here. I want the one where he's called Para Adam. Para Adam, go ahead. All right, let's go to page 89. We'll take a look, chapter 19, verse 29.
And so it was, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham. So he sent Lot from amidst the upheaval when he overturned the cities in which Lot had lived. Now Lot went up from Zoar and settled on the mountain, his 2 daughters with him, for he was afraid to remain in Zoar. He dwelt in a cave. He was with his 2 daughters. The older one said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man in the land to marry us in the usual manner. Come, let us ply our father with wine and lay with him, that we may give life to offspring through our father."
Now, this is the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Sodom and Gomorrah, as they say in English, Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot was rescued. He was rescued and he went and he finds himself in the cave. His daughters, for whatever reason, maybe they thought the whole world was destroyed. So they decide that they're going to have their father children through them. So let's see what happened.
So they plied their father with wine, and on that night, and the older one came and lay with her father, and he was not aware of her lying down and of her getting up. When it was on the next day that the older one said to the younger, "Behold, I lay with my father last night. Let us ply him with wine tonight as well, and you come lay with him, that we may give life to offspring through our father." So they plied their father with wine that night also, and the younger one got up and lay with him, and he was not aware of her lying down and of her getting up. Thus Lot's 2 daughters conceived from their father.
Okay, so now and go ahead, one more. Let's continue. Let's see what they
The
call the
older
children.
bore a son, and she called his name Moab. He is the ancestor of Moab until this day.
Moab means from my father.
And the younger one also bore a son, and she called his name Ben-Ammi. He is the ancestor of the children of Ammon until this day.
Okay, so now we know who Moab is. I'm sorry about this. I don't know what I was looking at. Yishmael was called Para-Adam. Para-Adam means like a wild individual. He was basically a highwayman. He would rob and steal from whomever. And here we have what we just read about Moab. The Moabite people were conceived from incest. Why is this important? Because it's not just telling us something of interest. It's telling us their nature. Why is it that they refuse to accept the Torah? Because it is the antithesis of their nature. Another question. When they asked God and they said, "Well, what does it say in your Torah?" God says, "Thou shalt not kill." Well, wait a minute. Thou shalt not kill in the 10 Commandments is number what? 6. Excellent. Ooh, wow. Terrific. Number 6. Why did God start with number 6? Why did he start with number 1, number 2? Why didn't he teach him something else? Because God was cutting right to the chase. And he was saying, all the other mitzvahs you could probably deal with. But Asa, be aware that to accept this Torah means that you have to be of such a nature that you can live respecting human life, revering human life. Man is in the image of God. And that is the antithesis of Asa. And that's why his guardian angel said, "Can't do it. It's against my nature. I cannot do it." When God approaches Yishmael, Yishmael says, what does it say? God cuts right to the chase. "Thou shalt not steal." I can't do that. I'm the Para-Adam. I'm the wild thief, robber. I have no respect as far as possession and ownership. I can't do it. And God says to Moab, "You want the Torah? What does it say? No adultery." No adultery? What are you talking about? I was formed from incest. I was formed from this type, from a total lack of respect for any morality. I cannot do it. Why was Asa called Edom? Give me the red stuff. What is it about red? Well, they say that Asa was a redhead. So he's a redhead, he likes red stuff. What does that mean? So they say that Asa is under, we spoke about the astrological signs and the zodiac, month of Siva and Gemini. Well, the nations of the world, all humanity, all of us, even the Jewish people, we have certain mazals. A mazel. What is a mazel? We say mazel means good fortune. No, mazel refers to constellations, the formation of various constellations, which we are taught have an influence on human behavior for those who were born under that sign. When are we born under that sign? It depends on the time of the year. So every month has a different mazel. Every month the earth turns and whatever, the seasons and everything, different constellations. That's part of the zodiac. Edom's mazel, Edom is under the influence of the sphere, which is called Ma'adim. Ma'adim. What's the root of the word Ma'adim? Edom. What is Ma'adim? It's one of the planets.
Mars.
Mars, the red planet. Mars is the planet that has the greatest, is an affinity, there's a connection, an influence on the behavior. So that now, even though there's an influence, it doesn't mean that we're victims. No human being is a victim because we have a brain and we can make proper decisions. Even if we have a nature towards something, there's no excuse to say, well, that's who I am. No, that's unacceptable. Maybe for an animal, a human being, we might have a propensity to do this, but that doesn't mean we have to do it. We have a mind and we can say this is right or this is wrong. That's our choice. Edom, why was it called? Give me the red stuff. Why? Because he was just drawn to that which is red, because he's under the influence of the red planet. God said to them, you don't want to accept my Torah because it contains these difficult concepts and mitzvahs. Well, what should I do with my Torah? Give it to the children of Israel. Esav, who should I give it to? Esav says, give it to my brother Yaakov. But Esav, aren't you the older? No, Yaakov is. Esav agrees that it's Yaakov. Yes.
But wasn't Yaakov born under the same sign?
Yes. Yes. So why is he not under that influence? Excellent question. Maybe we'll get there next week. Next week we'll do that because that's one of the gifts. Yes.
We get asked question. If God offered it to one of the brothers, why didn't he offer to the Ammonites as well as the Moabite?
Could be he did. These were the three main, because Ammon followed her older sister, Moab. Moab was the leader, so to speak. Okay? So God says, okay, Yishmael, you don't want the Torah. Who should I give it to? Give it to the Jewish people. Give it to Yitzchak. Yitzchak, but Yishmael, aren't you older than Yitzchak? No, I recognize Yitzchak as the son of Avraham and Sarah. I'm not from Sarah. I recognize Yitzchak. God says to Moab, you don't want the Torah, who should I give it to? He says, give it to Avraham, his children. Why Avraham? Because of Avraham, that's the reason why we exist. Get there in a moment. God says to them, so you want me to give it to the descendants of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. You don't want to accept it. It's too difficult. You want them to accept it. But why should they accept what is too hard for you? Each one said, we'll offer them a gift, like a bride. We're offering the children of Israel a gift. And this is the gift that we received at this point at Sinai because of the unity that we achieved. What is that gift? Every nation has a unique spiritual light. There's a spiritual light associated with each and every nation. And Esav said, I will give my spiritual light, my Or HaKadusha, my holy spiritual light, I will grant that to Yaakov. Yishmael said, I will have my light go to Yitzchak. Moab said, I will have my light go to Avram. We will grant that because this spiritual light its function is to make us a vessel to receive the Torah, we cannot. They can receive the Torah. Let them have this life. And indeed, we did. And that's why on page 1013, now we understand what it means. Moshe said he came from Sinai, having shown forth to them from Seir. What is this shining? What are we talking about? What is having appeared from Mount Paran? What's this all about? Moshe is saying that at Sinai, when God offered the Torah to Israel and they accepted, he came from Seir. He didn't go to Seir. We're talking about what came from Seir. What came from Esau? What came from Paran, Yishmael? What came from them was this shining light. The shining light refers to the spiritual light. That's what this verse means in chapter 33, verse 2. Shown forth to them a spiritual light. Where did this come from? Seir, Asa. And God's like appearing, there's some spiritual perception from Yishmael. That's what's taking place. This is the spiritual gift. Now let's go to Exodus chapter 19, verse 6, page 403. This week's parsha. Yisro. Page 403, verse 6. God tells Moshe, speak to the children of Israel, if they accept my Torah, this is what they shall be.
You shall be to me a kingdom of ministers and a holy nation.
Actually, you know what? Go back to verse 5. Let's do verse 5.
Okay. And now, if you hearken well to me and observe my covenant, you shall be to me the most beloved treasure of all peoples, for mine is the entire world. You shall be to me a kingdom of ministers and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the children of Israel.
Okay. Now he says in verse 5, we will be the most beloved treasure of all peoples. That's a proper translation. But if you look in the Hebrew, it says, V'yisam li skuli, you will be a treasure, mikol ha'amim. You can translate that to mean you will be a treasure from all the nations. Not a treasure of all the nations, but from all the nations. What's the difference? The difference is that God is telling us if we accept this Torah with all the disciplines that are contained within it, we will be a treasure, and that treasure that we will be is going to come from the nations. What are we talking about? What treasure? What's coming from the nations? The spiritual light. The spiritual light that God has bestowed upon each and every nation, that they should have an element of a connection and perception to the divine. Esav, Yishmael, and Moab, they have bequeathed it unto the children of Israel. And that's what's going to make us a unique treasure. What we are receiving from these nations, we're receiving this gift of the spiritual life. And that's why he says in the next verse that we will be a kingdom of ministers and a holy nation. All of that sanctity that they could have achieved and seized is now within our grasp. They chose that this blessing should go to Yaakov, Yitzchak, and Abraham. Let's go to chapter 19 in Genesis, page 89. See, this way I keep everybody awake. You have to turn pages. What verse do we want? 27 through 29. Let's see.
Abraham arose early in the morning to the place where he had stood before Hashem. And he gazed down upon Sodom and Gomorrah, and the entire surface of the land of the plain, and saw, and behold, the smoke of the earth rose like the smoke of a kiln. And so it was, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham. So he sent Lot from amidst the upheaval, when he overturned the cities in which Lot had lived.
Okay. Why did Lot survive this upheaval of Sodom and Gomorrah? Why? He was living amongst the most evil, wicked people, and he was very comfortable there. Why was he saved? Not because he had the merit. It says right over here, God remembered Abraham. It would have been a source of great distress to Abraham that his nephew Lot would be destroyed. Therefore, like as a favor to Abraham, Lot and his two daughters and his wife were saved. His wife, as we know, she turned into right, not bagels and lots, pillar of salt. Okay, right. But his two daughters, so Lot's two daughters owe their existence, and that means their incestual children, Moab and Ammon, owe their existence to Abraham. And that's why when they were asked and refused the Torah, they said, give it to Abraham. Why? We're indebted to him. We owe him our existence. Give it to him. Question: how could Esau, Ishmael, and Moab refuse the Torah because they cannot deal with these prohibitions? Don't kill, don't steal, and don't commit adultery. Aren't those 3 of the 7 mitzvahs of which Noah and his sons and descendants were commanded when they left the ark? Yes. These are 3. There are 7 mitzvahs that were given to Noah and all his descendants. Every Gentile has 7 mitzvahs. So how would they say, well, we can't take the Torah because of these 3? You're obligated to these 3 anyway. So here too, the Zohar tells us, they said, you know what? We're relinquishing. We can't observe it. We don't accept it.
Not even the 7.
Not at least these 3 are the 7. We're not taking, as a matter of fact, you're right. We're not taking the 7. We can't. We cannot accept your Torah, God, and we realize we cannot even uphold the 7. We are exempting ourselves, walking away from the 7. But what's going to happen with those 7 mitzvahs? What's going to happen? God said, I'll give them to the children of Israel. It will be incorporated in the Torah, all that it includes. Fine. And therefore, the Jewish people actually have 613 mitzvahs that are found in the 5 books, plus the 7 that they relinquish, which equals 620. So what? There are exactly 620, I think, letters, not words. Letters. Shouldn't be words, letters. There should be 620 letters in the 10 Commandments. There's 172 words. I'm sorry. 620 letters in the 10 Commandments. Nice coincidence, isn't it? Yes.
The 7 aren't part of the 613?
Yes, that's a good question. What do you mean? Don't kill is part of the 613 or whatever. So there might be like different, every mitzvah has like little tributaries. So there might be some things over here that aren't necessarily over there, maybe some stringencies. There are exactly 620 letters in the 10 Commandments. In addition, how do we spell 620? Well, Tov is 400. Resh is 200, that's 600, and Chaf is 20. So Tov, Resh, Chaf. These are the letters of how you would spell out 620. If you jumble them around, he spells Chaf, Tov, Resh. What word is that? Keter. Keser. What's a keser? a crown. A crown. When the Jews accepted the Torah, it says that the angels place crowns on their heads. We accepted the Torah with all of the ramifications and disciplines and everything. We accepted the 620. Okay, there are actually 8 attributes or gifts that we received. This is one. What's the second? Second is that we achieve a level of marriage, so to say, with God. Such a relationship of marriage. But you know what? We'll save it till next week. I don't want to keep you here another 5-10 minutes. All right? Next week, we'll pick it up from there. All right. Thank you for coming. I just want to show you something. In spite of everything that the Gottliebs had to deal with today, Murray remembered to make sure we would have